listening to the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game.
I think he froze. Nope, he's with us.
No, he's not. He's not frozen.
Hey, folks, welcome to the Beans and Dice podcast, Thursday night live call-in show. I'm Carlos.
I'm Rob.
I'm Wayne.
I'm Dan.
And we're a podcast about how we game, except for Thursday nights where we talk about how you game by taking your phone calls on Thursday nights to talk about what you've been up to gaming-wise. But first, we'd like to always prime the pump. Little primer, little conversation to spark the talk, the calls, the comments. Driving that conversation today is my therapist. I brought my therapist in.
He's here.
Yep. Von Schlitz, the German therapist, is going to talk to me to help break some emotional damage that I had that came to fruition over this past weekend.
Oh. Ooh. All right. Well, we got to hear the
Pass
story.
it to the doctor.
I missed it. So, yeah.
Well, that was quick. All right. Well, we're right into it then.
Yeah. Well.
Well, so today we want to talk about getting rid of games, culling your collection.
Hurts.
I know I've been doing that on a grand scale since I closed the store. I know Wayne is working on doing the same thing, getting rid of some of his. But before we start, just about how many games do each of you have in your collection? Let's start with Wayne. What do you think you have in there?
Well, I know how many I have because my BGG is up to date. 600.
There you go.
So in my total collection, I feel it was like 684. Double check.
684.
That include expansions?
658. Sorry, 658.
658. So we including expansions and everything?
That includes expansions, yes. If I did without expansions, it's like 4 something.
Okay.
I've got
Rob, what do you think?
About 150 including expansion, so it's about 120 probably without.
And Carlos, do you want to just look around and count real quick?
Give me a minute.
So my BGG is not up to date. When I
Shocking.
looked at BGG in preparation for this show, north of 450, including expansions, is what BGG says. Now, Wayne, your BGG is up to date. Looking at my library compared to your library, like how far off?
More than that. You're what are you saying you have? How many you say you have?
450 with expansions is what my BGG has.
You're north of me.
Twice that, you think? Yeah.
Okay.
Close to 800.
I need to update BGG.
You are, because knowing all the shelves you have, you're at least equal to me, if not maybe 10, 20% more.
You probably haven't been in his garage yet.
Yeah.
That's true.
The garage is
You haven't seen the bins in the garage?
Bins.
Okay. So yeah, you're double that. Your BGG is way out of date, my friend.
Yeah, I think so.
I figure if I don't write it down and BGG doesn't know, it's not a real problem.
Oh, it's not
Still is
a
a
real
real
thing.
problem. Yeah.
Oh, you're one of those people.
Schrodinger's
All right.
board game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Until you open the Rubbermaid, they're either in there or they're not in there all at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one way to look at it. All right. So with that said, we'll go the other way this time, starting with Carlos. How many games do you think is a good amount for someone to have?
I think if you had a library, if under 200, I think would be a good library. Like if someone, of our ilk, right? So we are gamers, we're enthusiasts, we're connoisseurs. If we culled down to less than 200 games, I would bet every one of those games would be a rock solid game.
Yeah.
That's good. Rob, what do you think?
Okay, it's gonna sound a little maybe conceited, but I'm gonna say about 140, 150. I mean, that's about where I'm at, and I've been there for years. But yeah.
Oh, look at that flex he just did. All right, Wayne, what do you think?
Before the show, I was thinking about it, and the number that popped in my head was 250, and that's
250.
Ish. I could easily go under the 200, but I think Carlos's point is if you're a hardcore gamer, like James said, I have under 100. That's he has his niche of games. Someone like me, I've got a kid, I've got a wife, I've got casual gamers, hardcore gamers. So I'm the board game person I'm the collection owner for a bunch of people. So having a wide swath of games that I can play from the 8-hour game to the 15-minute game to the kid game to the whatever. So 250.
That seems fair. All right. Now, I know the answer is yes for Carlos on the next question, but do you find it difficult to get rid of games? Rob, do you?
Yeah, we'll just skip Carlos. Yeah,
Yeah, we
I do.
skip Carlos. We know him
do.
already.
I do, yeah. I mean, if I had more games, let's just say somehow I was gifted 100 games, and so mine jumped from, let's say, 130 to 230, I would probably still have difficult time getting rid of games. I generally
But don't
do.
judge me, people, because Rob's got games here in my house that are his. Okay.
Yeah.
So like this
Well,
whole collection
I don't
isn't.
count those. Yeah. No.
There's like
That's-
5.
Yeah.
There's
When,
5.
when we're in therapy, we don't deflect Carlos.
Exactly, Carlos. Stay on topic, please.
Stay on topic. We're not talking about Rob's collection at your house. We're just talking about how hard it is for you to get rid of games.
Yeah.
I feel like you've been
Wayne.
through this before, Dan.
Oh
I
Wayne.
absolutely. I have a hard time getting rid of games. I have a hard time getting. I think human nature is to have a hard time getting rid of something. When you've collected something
Sure.
or you've purchased something, in general, you have a hard time getting rid of things.
All right. Well, that leads me to my next question. We'll start with Wayne then. What makes it hard for you to get rid of the games? What is going on mentally that you're like, I don't want to get rid of this?
You know, actually, I've actually thought about that recently, and so we know that in the show the last couple weeks I've mentioned I haven't played games for like 2 months, obviously because I'm dealing with an elderly parent. That's
Sure.
and I'm helping clean up her house now. Not that her house was messy, but it's like a lot of stuff, right? And I need to make room to make sure that if there's a wheelchair or a power chair or something like that, that there's room. And it's like my brother made a comment. It's like, at what point does the thing, like, do you own things or do the things you own you, right? So it's like, like at some point you have to think about, does this board game, do I own the board game or does the board game own me? In that, like, I'm holding on to it just because I think I might play it again, or I'm holding on to it because it's a game I played 10 years ago and I have a fond memory of playing it. And I think that's part of it, is like I have games that I know that the chances of me playing it again in the next 10 years is slim to none. I'll use the board, Battlestar Galactica. I own Battlestar Galactica and all the expansions. It's a very expensive game. It's out of print, never going to go into print again. I played a game a couple times. I may play it once or twice more in the next 10 or 15 years. Why am I holding on to it? Right? Because it's valuable, because it's collectible, because it's out of print. But I'm not getting it to the table. So, like, what purpose does it have other than just sitting on a shelf in my house?
That's a real good question to ask yourself. I mean, that makes sense. It's going to flow into what we're going to do in a little while. But Rob, what in your mind?
Exercises?
Well, yeah, he's got a whole thing playing.
You got like role plays going on?
Well, for me,
All right.
it's a value. Oh, go
ahead.
Or no, it's
Yeah, no.
a value.
Yeah, go ahead.
Value thing. So, and so this will sound a little cold. Mine's not so much. Wayne's got memories and stuff tied, and I'm sure I've got some memories tied into some games. But for me, it's value. I think about, I paid this much for this game, so everything's got a price. I mean, if somebody offered me, I won't say $1 million, but $10,000 to buy all of my board games, I probably would have no problem saying sure. I mean, it's got a price. If somebody hit a number that was reasonable and sounded right, that I could probably get rid of any and or all of them. But to me, it's a value thing. So it's like, well, I bought this game. I had some kind of value in it when I made the initial purchase. I'm pretty selective in the games I buy. I'm pretty selective in trying to find things at a discount. I buy a lot of used games, a lot of secondhand stuff, just to, for the value. But then I put a value on it. So I purchased it because of a reason, because I did some research on it. I knew I liked the game. I had a certain value on it. So it's going to have to exceed that monetary value or whatever for me to get rid of it. So that's the big part for me, is I have some kind of value built into it, and somebody's got to exceed that for me to want to get rid of it and give it to somebody else. So for the most part.
All right.
Like, how often would that happen, though, right? Knowing the board game market, it's so rare that a game is more valuable than when you purchased it.
Right. So that's what why I've kept my collection slim. I got a small collection of stuff that I know that I like. I don't try not to overspend. I try to find things at a good value so that if I ever have to get rid of it, I know I'm not throwing money or whatever away on it. So.
And Carlos, go ahead, man. What's stopping you?
How much time do we have?
Let's hear it.
We got 1 hour and 50 minutes.
There you go. Be exact.
I'll tell you, a lot of what Wayne said there, the money thing isn't the thing for me. It is really not. I've given away games. I prefer to sell a game at a very low price, because then I know the person has an investment, right? Whomever I'm getting rid of it to, right? I feel like if I gave away a game, It's not going to be valued as much if somebody actually put some money into it. But I'm never, ever going to even try to get a quarter of what the game is worth. I don't think I've ever really sold a game for its value. For me, I'm where Wayne's at. But the flip side, each game to me, when I buy it, I have an idea of who I want to play that game with, what memories I want to make with that game. I have a group in mind, a person in mind, an event in mind when I buy that game. And until I can do that or feel that, I feel like I have to keep it. Like I want to keep that game. For example, Scooby-Doo, the Betrayal version of Scooby-Doo. I bought it like 3 years ago, looking forward to playing it on Halloween with my wife and the kids. We just haven't been able to table it. And I'm not going to get rid of it until the day we do. Until the day that we can get it played as a family on Halloween, right? And then boom, then I can be done with that game and I can move on. Now, some games like Wayne talks about are games where I've made great memories with and I can still see making them in the future. Twilight Imperium is one of them. I had so much fun playing Twilight Imperium with the friends that I'm like, that game's staying in my collection forever because I want to continue that in the future. So for me, it's the memories, but not the ones that I've made, more as the ideas that I had when I bought each and every one of these titles. Like this will be a perfect game for when me and Wayne are somehow just the two of us playing, right? It'll be just us. Or this would be a great game for 3 players like me, Rob, and Nick. Like if, just the 3 of us, we both love this topic, this idea, or this mechanism. And I envision that group of people playing it. And I want to hang on to it until that happens.
So you're saying that you're willing to hold on to whatever game you want to talk about in your mind, no matter what, until you meet that criteria in your brain that I need to get this game played this way at this time with this group. And until then, it can just stay here forever.
And part of it is I'm blessed, right? When we moved to the new house, part of the conversation Wifey and I had was, I would like a room for my games, right? So I have what would be somebody else's den, right, in someone else's home. It is just for my games. And I have friends like Dan who hooked a brother up with this awesome shelving unit here behind Rob. So now it allows for my floor games to now have shelf space. So until I'm out of space, like literally out of space, I don't see a reason to have to get rid of it.
All right. You can see I'm not totally heartless. I gave you a shelf, man.
Exactly. Supporting his habit.
So going off what you just were talking about, each of you, how long, Carlos already answered this one, but how long should a game sit on a shelf before you say, hey, this has been here X number of months or X number of years, it hasn't been played and it's got to go? Wayne?
I'm still wrestling with that answer. Because
Rob, you want to jump in?
Yeah, go ahead,
Well,
Rob.
I mean, if you're ready, Wayne, go ahead. But
No, go.
Mine's,
You go.
Mine's
Go
quick and
ahead.
easy. Yeah, you can think for just a second. But yeah, I mean, mine until I run out of space. I mean, I have and again, I mean that could be infinite. So I mean, that's kind of a weird answer. But I've got a dedicated area. I've got 2 Calyxes side by side, and then I've got one tall 5x1 next to it. And I've still got a row of space that's pretty much empty. I have puzzles and some other stuff in there that I could clear out, and that's kind of my dedicated area. That will probably get me to about 200 games, maybe a little under 200. And until I get to a point where I just don't have space in that area, I've dedicated that area. Once that fills up, then I could start looking to get rid of stuff. But until then, I mean, I've got games that have sat on I've got a dedicated area, shelf of shame, that are games I just haven't ever played. And some of those games have been there close to 10 years. And until I need to start culling, until I need to start making some space, they could sit there probably infinitely. So that's my answer.
Yeah, I think mine's similar, but I am purposely out of space. So I have room to add another bookshelf like Carlos did. But I'm particular, right? And I bought Besta shelving instead of the Calyx shelving, and the color shelving I bought has been discontinued at IKEA. So I can't get any more shelving because I have to match the color.
Not with an attitude like that, you can't.
Yeah, right. But I've spilled over that, right? So my shelving unit is completely full, and I've got probably 50-ish games that aren't on shelves that are kind of under a table. And that's where I'm at. I was like, I'm like, so I'm where Rob might be, where my shelving is full. I could expand it, but I'm not going to. But I need to get back down to that, and that's sort of where. But which games that is, is interesting, and we can talk about that as how I reorganized my shelves in the last year to figure out what are the games that I'm going to call. So,
all right. We already talked about the nostalgia factor. Carlos brought that up, so did Wayne. Are there any games in your collection you could either, Carlos, you can just look around you or think of anybody. If there's any games in your collection that if all of a sudden it was gone, whether it just got stolen, disappeared, got damaged, would you rush out? And you would not rush out to replace it. Are there any games like that in your collection?
Okay, being insurance guys, I don't have the answer yet, so we're still thinking. Being insurance guys, just to kind of put it in that context. So if it got stolen and the insurance wrote you a check and said, "Here's the check to replace your games," you're asking, is there any games that I might not replace and that I maybe would spend the money on something else? Okay,
right.
Just kind of putting it in a different context for me and Carlos, at least as insurance guys.
Probably 90% of my games I would not replace.
Really?
I like, there's like Nexus Ops. Yeah, I'm going to replace that. Radlands. Yep, I'm going to replace that. Red Rising, Villainous, right? No, that's fine. There's so many games that I have already enjoyed and I want to enjoy in the future, but I'm okay without them.
That's a really interesting way to think of it, because I would immediately, I was thinking like, about half. No, probably 2/3 of my games. I would be like, I don't need to rebuy it.
It's like somebody did me a favor.
Really?
Yeah. Like if you destroyed my entire game collection, there are 25, 30% that I'm like, I need to own that game again. And then the other games, it's like I could replace it, or I could buy any number of other games similar to it if I wanted it.
Okay. Well, I feel like I'm not the right target audience. Maybe I'm not. Again, because my collection is smaller.
Your collection is like 1/5 the size of Carlos's.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've been so selective in the games I buy, and we've talked about this on prior shows.
A lot of them you hunted for a while.
Yeah, I try to play them. Yeah, I really research them. So for me, it's almost the opposite of these guys. I mean, I would probably rush out and buy 90% of them. There's maybe 10% that I'd spend that money on something else, but 90% of the games I would want to have again. But I feel like I've done a lot of work on picking the games that I really wanted in my collection. So again, I feel like I'm a different audience than these other two guys. But
it's a good like between Carlos and I, and then you, it's actually a good for the general audience to see like there are different spectrums here, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to bring up, not just for us to discuss it, but for anyone that's watching or listening that might be thinking about either decreasing the number of games they have or having a hard time. Maybe we can give them some ideas, some questions to ask themselves to whether or not they want to get rid of them. And it's not that you're not the target audience. It just sounds like you're in a much better place with your collection than a lot of the average board gamers out there, where it's just bloat and you just have a lot of extra stuff. And if it goes away, you're like, I don't care. So is it really that important to keep it? Again, Wayne and Carlos both talked about space. So did Rob, but
yeah. So Dan, that actually, like, I just want to say it again. That question that you just asked, like, if the game was stolen or destroyed, would you buy it again? That is kind of blowing my mind right now, because I'm like, all right, I need to. No, I'm serious. Because I went through my collection and I flagged like 150, 200 games where I'm like, okay, the games and or expansions that I'm going to get rid of them. But I might have to re-go through my collection and go, okay, would I rebuy that? Yes or no? And re-flag it, because that I think is going to make a much larger difference to those questions.
Yeah, this is something that like I said, I've been dealing with ever since the store closed. I went from 2,500 plus games, and I'm trying to get it down to 120, 130 games. And I'm getting close to that now. I probably have about 160, 170 that I'm keeping right now that I'm still trying to get rid of, another 40 or 50. But these are some of the questions that I either went online to where there was Board Game Geek or Reddit or just the internet in general about culling board games. And I've read people's posts of questions they asked themselves, and that's where I'm getting a lot of this from.
Cool.
And a lot of it helped me a lot, sitting back and asking, hey, when's the last time I played this? Would I replace it if it was gone? Does somebody else in the group have it? Is it a game that I'm not going to get to play at home, but it's on Board Game Arena and I can play it on there all the time? Just things that I can use to go, okay, this can go away.
Yeah.
Carlos is very silent right now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's
I'm absorbing. I'm like a sponge. I'm just taking it all in. But, there's a lot of chatter in the chat here.
Yeah.
Chatter in the
Yeah,
chat.
let's see what some of the people in the chat are saying.
Oh, well, starting off with the opening of the conversation, it was Dan with his jazz hands. That's what that was when we got here. For those that are watching the video,
Yeah.
Chester Wilson says he's around 80. So I think he's at 80 games. That's a pretty tight collection there.
Yeah, it is. Very good. Well done.
Odak says, not counting expansions, I'm just under 100.
That's kind of shocking.
Yeah.
I'm
But
sorry,
did you see? He was at the flea market this past weekend.
Yeah.
Did you see the stuff he had on there?
Yes,
There's a lot of
really-
new stuff.
Really good games. Yeah. Yeah.
He really just kind of cycles through his stuff. He doesn't let it linger.
I think Jim and Diego in the Beans and Dice community are probably have always been the best, and Dev and Daryl. Daryl, they're always really good about. Okay, I played it, didn't like it, get rid of it. You
Yep.
know, like,
Yeah, it's like the White Castle of board games. Like it just slides right through you. Just,
I thought it was Taco Bell.
Wow.
Yeah. No. Okay. Anyway.
Chad still sitting in the chat says I'm 120-ish, not counting expansions. Diego says Board Game Therapy would be a good YouTube channel.
Oh yeah.
There you go, Dan. Diego says fond memories are what keeps the games on his shelf. That's what Diego says. Chad says we are gamers. We don't exercise. LOL.
Oh yeah.
And then let's see here. Diego says, and a hope to create more. So I think he's talking about those memories again. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
It's like that made good memories, or I can see that one making good memories.
Yep.
Chester's talking about my Scooby-Doo. He says, do Scooby and Scrappy do what they say? They do no matter what they do.
Okay.
He's throwback to the show.
Yeah.
Chester says here, and this is where he got me, I love Palomari, but maybe Pocket Battles. So some games that I think we were talking about games that if they disappeared, you'd be okay with not coming back to.
Mm-hmm.
I know we had the flea market this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I know I didn't get a table, but I did run through an exercise, and I made a stack as tall as Rob of games.
Impressive. That's
Rob's
not
not
impressive.
that tall.
Yeah,
Not impressive.
knee high to a hobbit.
Just a little over 5.
But included in there was one Palomari game, which I struggled with because I really, really like a lot of Palomari's games.
Which one?
And I really enjoy being able to say, and I don't know if it's just because I'm a collector or the prestige of, I have a stack of Palomari games. Like, even if I'm never going to play it again, I want to own it so I can say, look at my collection of Palomari. I guess it'd be like being like a collector of like Van Halen tapes. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, look at all my Van Halen records that I have, right? Maybe that wasn't my favorite record, but I'm keeping it in there because it's Van Halen. Right? For me, it's Palomari. The game that I was willing to get rid of.
Which one?
Libertalia, the redo.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Like, as
good
much
one,
as I
good
love
one.
Palomari, I'm like, man, they really...
I agree. Yeah.
And it had had Archeo Society, I think that would have been in there too.
Did anybody buy it? Did you get rid of it?
No, I didn't show up with anything.
The rule changes to it are good, but the art changes sucked.
It's just
Yeah.
it's too soft.
It's weird.
But it's okay because Palomari came out with Pocket Battles, Chester Pocket Battles. Palomari just released, and it's on its way to the studio. His new game replacing Pocket Battles called Ancient Battles or Battle something. Battle World, Battle something. But it replaces Pocket Battles, and it comes with 4 factions built in, plays in 30 minutes or less. I taught Robert Pocket Battles decades ago.
Oh yeah.
Great system, great designer. Chad Stilson says, "Isn't White Castle the White Castle board game?"
Mm-hmm.
That's a Devier Games
That's an
throwback.
Old, old throwback. Yeah.
James says, I do have less than 100, but a lot of those are very big.
They are. He's got very big, expensive Kickstarter games. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing. That's another one of the questions that I found that I asked myself. That ODAC comment really sums it up. Is like, does the size of the game and how much storage space it's going to take up on my shelf weigh into your decision of whether or not to either get it or get rid of it?
Size doesn't matter. That's what my wife keeps telling me. Right?
That's a different therapy. We'll do that some other time.
Next time. All right. Not on YouTube.
It's a whole different pocket battles.
Okay.
And then another one last one that people can ask themselves of what Carlos just brought up is there another game in my collection that does what this game that I'm thinking about getting rid of does better?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's where I've been. My game collection like had this explosion, and then in the last few years it's slowing down. And so I've been asking that question: is okay, do I already own a game that does everything that this game does? And if it does, is it better than the game I currently own? And if it is, great, I'll buy it. And then the game I currently own would be a game I could sell. But it has kept me from buying a lot of games. It's like, does this game do something better than I already own? And then generally, a lot of times it's not, or no, I still prefer the older game. What was the first part of your question again, Dan? I'm sorry, my brain.
That's okay. I forgot already too.
What was like? Is it better than a game you already own?
Oh, yeah. If you're contemplating on getting rid of a game, basically what you just said. Do I have something else that does this better than the one I'm thinking about getting rid of? Yeah.
That does factor into it. Yeah.
All right. If anybody has anything else they want to add, any other questions, anything else in the chat? I can't see it here.
No, that was it for the chat. I think for me, size does matter. I will be quick to make a instant, impulse purchase on a small, medium box game. Like I feel like a small, medium box game. But then what bugs me the most is that is the game I hate storing. Like finding how to store, like,
games.
Mosaic, easy to store. Big box, goes on the shelf, takes a whole calyx, shelf. It's easy. But all those little box games of different sizes, those are the ones that bug me the most in storing. But buying them, no, I feel like I'll just scoop them up
all day.
Yeah, like a cash register purchase.
Yeah, fill up the cart.
Chat says.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that was the other part of the question is size, and size does matter. And actually, I think I've shied away from those giant games because they take up too much room. Like I would rather have like 3 midweight Euros that stack than one giant box game. And because in my mind, if you could buy 3 giant games or you could buy 10 small games, I'd rather have the 10 small games because it's more games, but I don't need more games. So I need to, it's almost like you need to get rid of that mentality, right? Like
change that thinking. Yeah.
Change that thinking a bit because you don't need more games. You just need the right games. So whether the right game could be that big game or it could be 3 small games. Yeah.
And I just picked up 3 large boxes from Dan a couple weeks ago, the Oathsworn series. So I'm there. I'm kind of the opposite. I'm a little more selective, and I like my big epic games. So, but yeah, I'd rather have a couple of big games than a bunch of little games, whatever reason. But yeah.
All right. Well, I've taken up about a half hour here of just talking about getting rid of board games. So if anybody has anything else they want us to cover, any topics, make sure they send them to the guys there or put them in the chat.
Yeah.
And we're going to open up the phone lines. 813-618-7099 is the phone number. Phone lines are open. Call in. Talk to us about what you have going on gaming-wise. Our topic was getting rid of games. Like, how to do that. You can change the topic. Bring your own. Beans and Dice podcast. Thanks, Dan, for that. Chad said in the chat, this is one that's important to me. He says he has a 2.5-year-old who loves 2-year-old games. I'm struggling with whether or not I keep the lighter adult games in hopes that he will eventually like them or just buy them in the future.
Oh, so much.
See, that's me. I'm more of I will keep them all and then try them. But here's the problem. Like I've been keeping my Castle Panic, right? But now there's a new Castle Panic. So then the real question becomes is do I continue holding on to this Castle Panic for the younger kids? Or do I get rid of this one and buy the new edition?
No, I feel that post so bad right now because I've done this so much times. And actually, this weekend at the board game at the flea market, there were several. I love kids' table board games. They're really good. I own 3 or 4 of them. My kid and I play them, wife, family, whatever. And I saw like one that I own, and I'm like, well, man, I kind of want that game. Like, I could buy that, and my kid will play it. And then Wayne from a year ago would have bought it. Wayne from today was like, well, no, I already own 3 games that are similar because they're all similar. Maple Valley, Creature Comforts, Fossilis, all the. I'm like, I already own 3 of them, and we play the 3 that we have. What is this other one going to do to like, so I've done that so many times. Like, oh, I'm going to buy this game because in a year or 2 or 5 years from now, my kid and I will play it, or I'll do, whatever. And I need to break that mentality because like I think the answer is get rid of it. Get rid of the game that you're not playing now because 5 years from now, when your kid is that age, either you could buy it and buy it used cheap, or there'll be 10,000 other games that fit that same niche, and you could buy that game and play with your kid.
Newer and shinier and streamlined.
Do it
better. The new mechanics.
or whatever. Or new. Yeah, whatever. And I have fought this so bad because I have so many games in my collection where I'm like, I'm going to hold on to this because my kid and I will play that in a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. And we might, or I could just, like I said, buy another one that's the same or similar game in the future. So it's tough. That's tough. And Carlos says the same. Carlos and I are like, he has way more kids than I do. I got one. He's got a zillion. But no, it's like you go, I want my kid to be a gamer. I'm going to game with my kid. I'm going to play this game with him. But you may or may not. And if he's not into games, and you got all these games you've been holding on to for years, that
For the grandkids, I'm already thinking grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got older boys, so maybe.
You got a wide vision there. That's what, when you were talking about your vision and all these memories you want to make, that hit me because I was like, man, you only have so many Halloweens
left.
You only have so many, right? That you're going to be able to play these games with the wife and the kids in the house and all that.
He's still got like another 15 Halloweens.
Well, yeah, he's still got at least 20 more years of that. So a little different.
Oh,
than
he'll
most
just
of us.
if he doesn't get the games played, he'll just have more kids so he can extend the timeline.
Yeah, just keep
You
pushing
figured
it
me out, Dan.
push it
You
out.
figured out the plan. This is
Carlos,
how Brown takes over.
Carlos keeps hitting that pause and rewind button.
But I'm more for the more for the here and now, like the game Destinies. Me and my older 2 kids are really enjoying Destinies, and there was a sale recently within the last 8, 10, 12 months where they were selling the whole bundle, all the expansions and everything. And I know Mike, who's not here with us tonight, he was like, "Oh, Robert."
I mean, he didn't die.
Oh no, he's not with us anymore.
He's not dead. He's just not on the show today.
Well, he's in Seattle, so he's pretty much dead, right?
Oh.
Anyway, anyway,
Seattle.
for the Seattle viewers, but yeah, Seattle's nice. I've been there a few times. Really rainy.
You don't have to fix it, Rob. Just carry on.
Anyway.
Yeah, mistake has been made. Just move on. Yeah,
You can email Rob at beansanddice.com.
But he's like, here's a bundle deal. You can get all the Destinies. You like it. Go ahead and just buy everything. And I was like, no, I'm all right. I'm going to live for the now. I'm going to buy the next expansion. If me and the kids get through that one, then I'll consider buying the next one. And then I'll buy the next one. And if we get through that one, then I'll buy the next one. So I don't shoot for these maybes, hey, hopefully one day we'll get to it, or I want to make these memories, in the future. I don't know. Maybe it's a pessimistic view.
No, we all need Rob's mentality.
No,
didn't you say you had a game on your shelf that's been there unplayed for 10 years though?
Yeah, but I'm not saving it just for the hope that eventually I'll make a memory with it. I'm just saving it because I've got room to have it there. If I ever got to the point, where I needed the space or whatever, those games, that Shelf of Shame would be the first one to go. I mean, those games, if I haven't got to them and they've sat there, that'd be the easy part to cull. So
now, and what's interesting, so the follow-up question there is like, so your mentality of like really cultivating your purchase selection, right? Some of those games that have been on your shelf of shame for 10 years might have been prior to your cultivation. Like when you first got in the hobby, or you're like, oh, I'll buy that game. Yeah. And then in recent years, you've been like, you would like that game that's on your shelf of shame would never meet your current criteria for purchase.
Right, and I'm gonna something else that hits me as I'm thinking about it is that some of those were just really good deals. I was at Barnes and Noble and they had a buy one get one, or they had their discount shelf. They had all these games that were 80% off, and I'm like, wow, for pennies on the dollar. I know, I've heard that game's a good game. I'll pick it up, even though it may not be a thing. So there was definitely a period there of some years where. I was probably while I was trying to build my collection, but there was a lot of stuff that was like, well, this is just a deal that's too good to pass up. And so part of my value, my bargain look at it is that, hey, I'll pick this up. I do plan to play it. It's not like I'm trying to flip the game or make a profit on it, but I'll grab it while it's super cheap, throw it on my shelf, and I'll get to it one day probably. But yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting thought that there's probably a fair number of games on there. That's the reason they're on there, is they weren't games that I was really out there looking for, but I just ran into a really good deal somewhere, and I was like, you know what? For $10, that game's normally $40. I'll pick it up. I'll throw it on the shelf. So there's definitely some of that on the shelf of shame. Yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, good stuff.
Great conversation.
All
right, I got a fun game for us while we wait for phone calls. 813-618-7099 is the number. I'm going to share my screen here, and what I'm going to share is one of my screens is going to be an image of Rob's top 20 of the year so far. So Rob's top 20.
We picking stuff apart here.
Yeah,
Carl's
share
gonna pick it
the
apart?
screen. We've been having so much fun with Dan's top 10 takedowns.
You say, tell me where I'm wrong.
So what I thought was what we're going to do today is I'm going to, looking at Rob's list here, I put it up on the screen. We'll read it off for the listeners of the podcast. But what we're going to do is I've got 5 games, and I went through BGG, and I pulled some comments from the number 1 ratings of 5 of these games.
Okay.
And we're going to read the comment, and then hopefully you guys can help pick out which comment goes to what game on Rob's top 20.
Oh, this will be fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Rob's top 20, his number 1 right now is Dune, Imperium. Number 2, Endeavor, Age of Sail. Number 3, Blood Rage. Number 4, Tyrant to the Underdark. Number 5, Destinies. Number 6, Castles of Burgundy. 7, Aquatica. 8, Undaunted. 9, Imperial Settlers. 10, Underwater Cities. 11, Res Arcana. 12, Darwin's Journey. 13, Manhattan Project. Energy Empire, the right one. Number 14, get the right one, baby.
Yep.
Number 14, Ra. Number 15, Comic Hunters. 16, Village. 17, Barcelona. 18, Ethnos. 19, Windmill Valley. And 20, Return to Dark Tower.
All right, let's
Don't
hear it.
Google that.
I don't know these answers, so I'm going to be interested. Yeah.
So, I'll tell you this. I was really surprised. Some of these games don't have ratings of 1 with comments.
Really?
So, I would not call that like a substantive rating of 1 if you didn't actually take the time to tell you why it's a 1.
Okay.
So
Well,
you got a good list of games there, Robert.
That's what people do. Nothing you can do about that. Yeah.
Well, these people commented here.
Uh-oh.
So here's the first one.
That's a whole other topic we'll do on another show about rating systems.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
This is the username is Mayasty. So Mayasty says, this is a model example of the rate 1. Long, boring, repeatable, and irritating pure abstract. I saw yet 100 times all these elements and mechanisms combined in identical way without any substantial logic. It's just a product of unleashed and improvised designers ride through the palette of available tools in order to create as complex and bizarre ideas as only possible. I'm reading straight up what they're saying here.
Wow.
So any grammatical errors is on them. I didn't find any single element that could grab my attention and raise positive feelings. This one is a clone of dozens identical games of no intellectual value for me. I'm really tired of playing this kind of abstract stuff again and again, where all players do their solitaires muttering to themselves with no interaction. Waste of 3 hours of my precious time. What game is this, Robert?
No interaction.
Before
I have a guess.
All right, go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say, before we guess, I want to say this person probably has a super tight, really good collection of games with a comment like that.
Oh, yeah,
And-
I bet.
Also, their comments were just about how much they didn't like something. So just don't play it again. All right.
Well,
Or you can rate it a 1, and I actually
Yeah,
had to
trash
cut
it.
out about a half of that I cut out because it included things that were specific to the mechanisms of the game.
Okay.
So I didn't want to give you too many clues. So there was more. Oh, he had more.
All right.
I got my guess.
All right, who wants to go first? Go for it.
I'm going to say that's Barcelona.
All right. Any other guesses? Because that wasn't it.
I
Ooh,
can't.
was it?
My screen's too small for me to read the list up there, so I'm out of that guessing.
Go, Gadget Eyes.
And I don't know. With the no interactions really throwing me off. I mean, Barcelona I thought was a good guess, but yeah.
This coming from the guy that doesn't value memories, just money.
Darwin's Journey.
All right, Rob,
No,
you ready?
Darwin's Journey. Yeah, go ahead.
It is your number 10, Underwater Cities.
Ooh, really? No.
Yeah.
Underwater Cities is a worker placement where you can't go where somebody else is. So again, that's the no interaction really throws me off there because I think there's a lot of interaction. There's a lot of blocking in that because you can kind of see what somebody's trying to do and you can block what they're trying to do. So that's
he gave it props for the little domes, little plastic
Little
domes. He
plastic
gave little
pieces?
props on that, but I had to cut that out.
No,
James Odak says that person is on crack.
probably.
The user was Whitney Houston.
Oh yeah, Whitney Houston
Thank-
for 1,000.
Take it easy, 15 expansion boy.
All right, here we go.
All right, yeah, let's try-
second game.
try another
Second
one.
game.
Yeah,
I tried to make this next one a little easier. I figured
Round
that first
two.
one would be harder.
That's a tough one. Yeah.
This one should be a little easier. All right, this is Ghost Inside. That's the handle for the
bet they
BGG
are.
user.
Yeah.
Ghost Inside out
they
of
are.
Oregon. So we'll blame Mike for this one. This is that West Coast flavor.
Blame Morgan.
This game was a terrible experience. IMO. So,
In my opinion.
in my opinion. I'm stunned it is popular. It felt like this game plays itself. Just pull something from the big bag and throw it on the table, and somebody who knows the rules will resolve everything. If you get behind with the bidding chits, then you are hosed. You get punished if you hold back longer than everybody else. This smorgasbord of unfun design decisions, I never want to see this game again.
Done. I know it.
Pulling from a
I don't.
bag. Well, that should give it away, right? Let's
Yeah.
See.
All right, don't forget his what do we call them? Hall of Fames. Hall of Fames include Brass Birmingham, Orleans, and Terraforming Mars.
Those are on the list. Oh,
No, they're
okay.
they're on the screen too.
Okay. Didn't read those earlier.
Could
so,
be,
okay.
but no, it's raw.
Yeah, you're right. It's probably raw. Yeah.
It is raw.
Yeah,
the
that's
comment
right.
was made March of 2023, so it must have been the new edition at this point.
Probably.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that was raw. I figured I tried to make it a little easier. Had a little
Yeah.
bit about bag pulling in there.
Okay.
All right. Here's the next one. This was sweet, simple, to the point. This is pro_player. Made this comment here. Boring, comma, ugly, comma, long and themeless piece of crap. Space, exclamation point.
Space.
gotta be- Well,
Beyond the Sun?
Yeah, winner.
I wanted to say Darwin's Journey, but I don't think Darwin's Journey is ugly.
That's Castles of Burgundy. Pretty
think?
fancy version.
Yeah, the nice version of Castles of Burgundy. Are we? No, not on
Comment
it
was
yet.
made July of 2020
Oh,
Would that, does that help if I give you when the
that
comment was
narrows
made?
it down a little bit. So
Ethnos?
Ethnos, when he started, I thought Ethnos was going to be it, but as he went along,
maybe.
no,
Yeah.
no, I don't think so.
I think you can thank Wayne for this one. This one is Village.
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 Yeah. Village is an old game. Yeah,
Boring,
old game,
ugly,
yeah.
long.
it is kind of
long.
Ugly.
It's kind of ugly, but not long.
I would say
I don't know that game.
It's really
Yeah.
good. It's a great game.
Well, pro_player would say you're better off not knowing it.
Obviously.
All right, next game. Last two I have here.
Last
This
two?
is Larmac_Gas Oldridge. These are some weird names on
Handles.
BGG.
They don't want people to know who they are.
Have
He
you never
says,
been on the internet?
or they say, a very run-of-the-mill worker placement game with more rules and less strategy. Outcome heavily guardrailed and based on turn order. Theme does not come through at all. Great radio.
Yeah.
What we're doing here,
Yes.
folks, is I'm giving out comments. These are number one rated. When I say number one, they gave it a rating of
People
1 out of
rated it
10,
1 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they put
Yeah.
a comment. And these are some of the games that are on Rob's top 20 board.
Manhattan Project. No.
Anybody else got one?
I was gonna say Dune, but Chad beat me to it, so like he would win it if he.
Chad is the winner. Dune Imperium.
Wow.
Yeah, when you see people bring out theme not coming through, you know they're kind of butthurt about their IP.
About their IP. Yeah, they're a Dune fan, and they don't think it. But you know what? They're wrong because I'm a giant Dune fan, and that game really hits the theme.
Well, you can send a message to Larmac with a C_gas Oldridge on BGG and let him know.
That is a dude in his basement that I
would I get kicked off of BGG if I just told somebody to go?
Everybody go flame.
Is that against like the user handle?
Give us
they are
agreement?
BGG is pretty fanatic about like booting people for like
cool. Consider Carlos gone.
Okay. Ow.
Especially with this next one. Here we go. PassZar26, so it's PASZA26 says,
Sorry.
It is a nightmare. The worst experience with board games that I've had for years. My good advice: remove all the sharp objects from the space around you, and you can't hurt yourself after 2 to 3 hours with this game. Better advice: don't play it. There is so many different things wrong with this game that it is hard to count them all, but let's try. And I only kept one of them because all the rest went into mechanisms. It is so dry that it can start a fire in a rainforest.
Darwin's Journey.
Damn, my man.
Right off the bat. Start a fire in a rainforest?
The reason I loved this comment, like the anger in this comment, took me back to Dice Tower East when we played with Dan and with Greg.
Oh yeah.
And
Dangerous
Dan
on
had to give
table.
Greg the caveat, the disclaimer. Listen, I'm angry, but not at you. I need you to know that. I'm not angry at you. Because you can see the fear in Greg's eyes.
Is this guy gonna punch me?
So when Pazar26 says get rid of any sharp objects around you, that's exactly how it felt. Like
good advice.
That is
you
fair.
you saw Greg like
fair.
pulling away like bottles and cups away from Dan.
Yeah, he kept scooting a little bit further away each turn.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
As you're reading that, I'm looking at Rob's list. And I'm like, there's only one game that could be. It has to be Darwin's
Journey.
That is that enraging.
As much as I disliked that game in person, I had the same experience when I played Arc Nova for the first time in person. I hated every minute of it. I play Arc Nova every day on BGA.
BGA, yeah.
Because it handles all that and takes all that extra time out.
Yeah, Carlos and I played 3 or 4 times just to make sure the all the opinions out there were
played at different player counts too, just to make sure. And I'm still, but I haven't played digital, and that might be it, Dan.
I really have warmed to Arc Nova digitally.
Yeah, it's good digitally.
I love it online, but if somebody wants to play it in person, I'm out. I'm not playing it.
I would still play it in person, but I definitely prefer it online. Yeah.
I think I'm with Rob. I would play it in person, not on a regular basis, but like once a year. But I would definitely play it on BGA more often.
Yeah, and I played it quite a bit on BGA now.
That was a top 10 teardown.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, this is
as a reminder, this is a call-in show. So anyone who's listening, or 10 or 12 of you, please call in. Tell us your thoughts.
People enjoying the banter.
Color your collection. Make fun of Rob's top 20.
Yeah.
Just make fun of Rob.
Well, just in general, yeah. Got this thing growing on my face. You can call in about that. Yeah, whatever this is. Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of BGA and things digitally, I took a chance this week.
Okay.
I took a chance. Remember I talked about I went through an exercise of games I would get rid of, right? And I made a pile about Rob High, standard metric unit.
Standard Rob. It's
like and the pile is still in your house, right?
When you measure horses in hands, you can measure board games in Robs.
In Robs. So I made a pile of Robs, of a single Rob. It was a single Rob.
A pile of Rob.
A pile of Rob. In that pile, believe it or not, was Hadrian's Wall.
Oh. Well, you got to play that.
It's been on my shelf. Dan, I think we got this from you when you...
Pull it down. Yeah.
It must have been Dan. He might have done a Kickstarter group retail purchase. I don't remember, but it was years ago.
I'll teach you while we're on the show.
Years ago, and Rob has always talked about teaching it, but every time they talk about this game, it's always with the caveat of the toughness of learning it. There's so many intricacies.
I've got it now. I'll teach it.
I've never played it. So you know what?
Play it
I
online.
had it in the pile, ready to go in the van. Right, so it's going to go in the van. It's going to go to the sale. It's going to go to the flea market.
I agree. I agree. You should get rid of it because you can play it on VGA.
Well,
so after the flea market where I did not sell anything, I didn't show up with any games. I didn't walk in there with anything to sell. Just didn't do it. Didn't happen. And then I asked myself, wow, I love anything Roman. We'll take this phone call here. Beans and Dice Podcast. State your name. Where are you calling from?
This is Jim Odak from Tampa.
hey, Jim. How are you?
Hello, Mr. Odak.
How's it going, gentlemen?
Well,
Things are swell.
You can hear how it's going. Yeah. Up and down.
Boy, that first guy, man, there's a couple of those. I think there's just some bitter people out there. I think they're not happy unless they're, and I should talk about this, unless they're complaining about stuff.
Yeah.
Are you telling me you've never rated a game a 1 and given like a good thesis as to why?
Never have.
Nope.
I'm not one to put down a lot of words. I'll give it a 1, but I just won't explain why.
One of those.
I won't even do that.
I'd be like, it sucks. Next.
No reason. Well, then move on.
Could we guess that anything we saw on your for sale table would have been in that low range of rating? Because you had some good stuff on there.
So I wasn't selling stuff that I didn't like at this point. I think the only one that I didn't like, I think, was Lunar Rush. So I've backed a few Kickstarters in the past couple of years that I just didn't like, so I just got rid of them.
Yeah.
I sold Lords of Ragnarok a while back, Huang, and that Lunar Rush. I took a beating on it too. I think I put it in the dollar auction, got $8 for it.
Wow. Okay.
It's 8 times more than what you started with.
Yeah, and it was just, I didn't like it. I was never going to get it to the table. It just held no interest to me. Which, one of the things I was going to bring up is there's, you were talking about memories is why it stays on the shelf. I have other reasons. So tell me if I'm weird. There's some games I just like to set up. Okay. Enough said. We're done.
Go ahead.
There are some games I like to have just because I like to set them up and just tool around with them. Not necessarily ever going to get them to the table in a game group. Is that weird?
That's not weird. No, it's not weird. I can fall into that same category. There are certain games that not only do I like to play them, I like the actual setup and tear down of the game. So no, that's not weird.
I'd say it's not weird unless you're, doing some crazy like setting up like 7-player Thunder Road Vendetta. If you're doing some stupid stuff like that,
well, that's dumb. Nobody does that.
Yeah, that's just out the window. But as long as you're not doing that, you're all right.
I feel like there's a story here.
That's how I learn
Discord today. He's solo playing a 7-player game of Thunder Road Vendetta. He put all the cars out there, all the expansions in. He put all the boards together, and he's just playing. He's going around his table playing each of the 7 different factions one at a time.
See, I was just going to say, because, Jim, what you described as being weird, Dan has made a whole channel on YouTube around with like thousands of subscribers where it's just Dan setting up a game and kind of going through it a little bit, talking about it, and then tearing it down.
Okay.
And no, you're not weird. I do the same thing, but mine is more historical-based war games. I really like the scenarios in those war games. I set them up. I read the history behind it, put all the units on the table. Never gets played.
And you learn from it.
And then I learned from that moment of history that's described in that scenario booklet.
But what I'm doing with the Vendetta right now, I'm not doing that because I want to actually play the game. I'm doing that to learn the game. That's how I don't watch videos, or I could read the rule books, but it never clicks. I just got to put it on the table. I'll just throw everything out there and I'll just go through the actions of the game. That's how I learn it. And generally, after doing that, I can even teach it if asked to.
Now, do you play a different persona every time you move from one player seat to the next?
Different voice, you put on a different costume.
No.
Yeah.
No. I just
that would make a great TikTok channel if you did, though.
That would be.
That'd be like a great TikTok channel if you did that.
Yeah, that would make, and then it also make people concerned about my with mental well-being
Mental health,
too.
yeah.
But
And we're already concerned.
concerned.
Yeah.
Unanimous. They couldn't talk over each other fast enough on that. Sorry, Jim.
alrighty then.
No, that was all love.
But no, I just try to do different things so I could test out all the rules, how they work, and because a lot of times you can read it, you don't understand how it actually works with DC in practice. So,
But Vendetta Road, like Thunder Road Vendetta, is like one of the ones that I could see doing all by myself solo, just to see what happens. Like, what happened to the brown car? And I'm gonna play this car like super luck based, like push my luck all the way to the limit. And then this car, I'm gonna be like more conservative. Like I can totally see running that whole game solo and just enjoying the story.
Sure.
Cannonball Run.
I tell you what, Dan mentioned is it tight with the 7 players within the first 5 turns, not first 5, rounds. The first 5 of the 7 players already had one car eliminated.
First 5 actions.
Yes, the very first day already had one car eliminated. I love that game for that fact. That's what I love about that game is it's so out of control,
chaotic,
and wreck. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the
I would
games
like
I
to try it
actually
at 7
kept.
players. I would like to actually try it at 7 players. I don't think it would be the best functionally, but it would be just utter chaos.
It's chaos anyway, but yeah, even more so.
Now I've played it at 2.
Even more so, yeah.
I've played it at 2. It is so much better at more.
Yeah,
That-
2 would be
That
more.
7, I know you say it'll be chaos, but it also is what makes it fly.
Yeah.
What makes the time fly is that
Yeah.
chaos. And the feelings that are hurt as Nick Oben loved it watching his feelings get hurt when his car got blew up.
Why'd you do it to me?
Well, that's and I'm starting to notice that there's people that I'm not going to call a lot of people are very good at games that win quite often, and sometimes games you play them to win. Games like this, I could care less if I win. That game is just fun.
It's the experience, yeah.
Yeah.
And I notice that people that are really focused on winning don't enjoy that so much.
Oh yeah, no. There are people who get pissed about that. Yeah.
Well,
So I
there's an
think
art to being like
Yeah.
Rob, because you can't be the guy going ahead in Thunder Road and Vendetta. You can't, because every helicopter will
Target
be
you.
on you.
Target.
Right? If,
Yeah.
if you're the lead car, you're dead.
Yeah, I think you bring up a point. There are people who play games to win, people who play games to have fun or experience, right? But I think I'm kind of like I'll play Thunder Road and I don't care. I channel my inner Dan and say chaos and just like have fun with it, right? But you put me in Castles of Burgundy, I would win that game, right? So it's like you have certain games I think
Yeah.
you play and you just know I'm just gonna have fun with this and we'll see what happens. Like just close your eyes and go for the ride, right? And then there are certain games where you're like, no, this is the game that I'm focusing on. I'm gonna win it. I'm gonna so you get to that point in certain games where you flip that switch.
Absolutely.
I felt like you had
Yeah.
something else you wanted to bring up there, Jim.
Well, I also wanted to defend myself about all my expansions. I mean, not every game.
Yeah, throwing
I
them all
don't
in.
have to play expansions, right? I like to learn them all, but there are some that I like. You guys know that Ankh is one of my favorite games. I hate the expansion for that.
Yeah.
It's hit or miss. I like the Teotihuacan, which everybody's giving me crap for because there's 12 expansions to that. I like how they all work together in the game. They make the game like that much bigger, right? And then there's some expansions that aren't really expansions; they're just fixing or improving the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
I'm not bashful about adding expansions. I'll leave it at that.
I think it's we're all friends. We all hang out. We all game. So we all love to bust each other's chops. And so, but in some respects, I respect that because I have 680 games and about 300 of them or 200 and something are expansions. Probably 2/3 of those expansions are unplayed because 9 times out of 10, when you play a game, you play in the base game or you're teaching new people, and you don't want to incorporate those expansions because it's too much complexity or it changes the game too much. Whereas you're like, F it, let's just play all the expansions. And like, dude, I want to be like that because I have probably on my shelf of shame, there's probably maybe 30 or 40 games, but if I looked at expansions, it's probably over 100. I buy the expansion and then never play it. So the idea of let's just play it and see what happens, it sounds good to me.
That's the other thing that I was forgetting to bring up that you just reminded me of. You're absolutely right. If I had to wait until I got everybody who's playing the game who's played it before to introduce an expansion, never play it.
Yeah. A lot of one and dones, two and dones, yeah. And I'll take responsibility. I was the one probably who started that whole thing because I had played a couple of games with you, Tricarion, and was at least one or two others where we just threw everything in. And Underwater Cities was one we just threw everything in, and I was learning it for the first time, so I kind of made a big deal of it. But I did defend you. I did say on the show a couple of weeks ago that there was some merit to that idea that throw everything in, find out what you like, find out what you don't like, and then from that point forward, you just leave the stuff out that you don't like. But if you've played it all once, then you know what you like, what works, what doesn't work for you. So there's definitely merit in that. But
no, there's not.
No, yeah. Just start slow, build up, ramp up. Yeah.
Well, the Underwater Cities is a tough one, right? That's just one expansion.
Yeah, there's not much to that.
But there's one part of the expansion that I absolutely love, and there's one part of that expansion I don't like at all.
Yeah.
So that race track board, I can't stand that. I think that takes away from the game.
The sideboard,
the asymmetric assistance that it adds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mayasti agrees with you. Mayasti on BGG says, waste of 3 hours of my precious time.
Yeah. So I was wondering how you like some of those comments, Jim. I assume you were watching for that part, but Underwater Cities, no player interaction, they said. I could not disagree more. I mean, it's a blocking worker placement game. I think there's a fair amount. I mean, you've got your own player board, so you're definitely doing some stuff on your own, but there is a fair amount of blocking in that game. You can see pretty much what everybody's trying to do. So,
yeah, I'm thinking that person just didn't learn the game very well and didn't understand it, didn't know what they're doing.
Yeah, must be. Bad
Or
opinion.
it might just be somebody that really enjoys take that style games, like they want to be able to attack or take something from you, and if you can't do that, they're like, oh, it's no interaction at all.
That could be, yeah.
It could be a diehard dudes on the map game guy.
Could be, yeah, just not their style. Anyway, well, that's why there's 7,000 games coming out every year, so, yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever read the reviews on Hegemony? There's
no.
at least
I will now.
20. There's at least 20 posts swearing up and down that this one faction is overpowered about all four factions.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Oh.
Yeah. Which should make a good game, right? I mean, if everybody thinks they've got an overpowered faction, overpowered ability, yeah.
They're all correct and all wrong at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hegemony, says Chad in the chat. Hegemony.
No, let's not get into the pronunciation of that again.
Just
Start stuff. Anyway, you can always leave it to chat.
Alrighty. Well, that was pretty much it.
All right, Jim. Well, if
we have a lot to talk about.
If we can get you away from a weekend camp out here anytime soon, we'll play some board games together.
I know.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna miss the December one again.
Oh yeah, the next Beans and Dice, the big holiday Christmas gift exchange celebration at Dance House coming up in a couple weeks. I say a couple weeks, about a month, but yeah. So looking forward to that. But yeah, so we're gonna miss you again. Maybe January. Let's shoot for January.
Yeah, hopefully. End of January, I'm going to Raleigh for Whose Turn Con.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
The one I always confused with Your Turn.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I had to think about it, make sure I said that right.
Does that convention usually sell out, or do you know, or can you normally get tickets at the door?
So, in theory, and they still kind of do it, it's by invite only.
Oh, okay.
But they will take anybody. You just got to ask somebody who's already in to invite you.
Okay, cool. All right. So that's kind of how Dice Tower Retreat has moved to. Tom wants you to email him and tell him how you found out about it before he'll let you get into Retreat now. So, interesting.
Yeah. I got in. They accepted me. I got my tickets for the retreat next year.
Yep. Looking forward to having you along. So me,
nice.
you, and William right now so far. Yep. Cool.
I was shocked.
Yeah. Oh, you're on that waiting list for a year and a half, and you got in. Woohoo!
When is the retreat?
I don't remember. Do you
September, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Something like that. September. Yeah.
It's not
I
long
think
after July.
It's like right after Dragon Con. That's why I'm not even on. I'm not even gonna get on that waiting list.
Yeah. All right,
I
Jim.
would like to go to Dragon Con. I just wouldn't like to be around all those people.
It's a lot of people. It is a lot of people. Yeah.
It is
Yep.
80,000 of your closest friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
No. Not for Dan.
I don't know these people.
Quit touching me. Quit touching me.
But
Dice Tower's almost pushing the limit for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know you guys were in the Discord talking about getting a villa. Apparently, villas are already sold out. And
Yeah,
twice. Twice.
Yeah,
Twice sold out.
they added some
Oh,
villas.
the second bunch is sold out now too.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
they said they already sold out. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need a fancy room. I just need a bed.
Just need a room. Yeah. Just need a place to lay your head.
Yeah. 'Cause
I agree. The family,
right,
family always comes
I'll-
with me, or I'd pitch in on that. But yeah, good to hear from you, Jim.
yeah, I'll let you guys open up for the multitude of callers that are waiting to call.
Hopefully people are jumping on each other to get on next on the line.
Right?
Appreciate you calling in.
Thanks, Jim. Have a good
All
evening.
right. Have a good night.
See it.
So before the next caller, I missed. I got to the Tampa Gaming Guild's auction or board games
Flea market.
flea market. Thank you. I had to leave about halfway through. Obviously, I was only there just kind of. I am very proud that I went through that room 3 or 4 times and didn't buy a game, although I wanted to buy a bunch. Those that were there, I think Rob. Did I see you there, Rob?
No, I wasn't there.
I know I saw Carlos and Dan. Well, how did it go? How did the auction go? I heard the auction was pretty cool.
2 hours long.
2 hours long, or yeah.
Yep, I was calling out bids for 2 hours straight. I was pretty tired at the
way.
end.
Y'all were planning on it being like 30 minutes, and it turned out to be 2 hours.
Yep,
So a lot of people put games in there, huh?
hundreds.
Wow, really?
Wow.
Wow. And did some games go for, like percentage of the games that went for like dirt cheap, way undervalued versus some games that went for more than you thought?
Nothing went for more than I thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, there was. I think somebody bought Escape Plan in shrink with the upgraded tokens and everything for like $30.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I heard there were some great deals. Yeah.
There was some crazy things that sold super cheap. Lots of stuff sold for $1. So
Wow.
Quick transactions.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I would have loved to throw in about 30, 40 games in that just to get rid of them. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm like going to give it to Goodwill, so I might as well get $1 for it.
that's what I did. I threw like 25, 30 of mine in there too, just to get them out of there.
And he walked out with $20.
And doesn't matter, right?
Yeah. More than
They're gone.
I was willing to light them on fire. So if somebody gave me $1 for one of them, I didn't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Little fuel. You were mid thought before the call. I don't. You remember what you were talking about?
Yeah, I was talking to Hadrian's Wall, but we'll come back to that.
Okay.
I am also proud. I went to the flea market and I walked out with one game. One game.
One new game.
What game did you buy?
So
She left with all
Wayne
the
had
games you
talked
brought.
about this game a couple weeks ago, Trekking the World 2nd Edition.
Okay.
And it somehow got on my radar that evening. So I'm watching YouTube videos, reading reviews, trying to figure out the difference. Because, again, back to the Rob's height of games, the Rob measurement of games, one of them in there was Trekking First Edition, Trekking the World First Edition. So it got me really thinking about 2nd edition. Do I want to put it on my wish list for Christmas, et cetera, et cetera? So I'm on that rabbit hole of researching that game. I go through that flea market, and the last table at the door, when you make your way all the way around, there was an in shrink Kickstarter edition of Trekking the World 2nd edition, including the expansion. $40.
Basically,
I was stunned.
Yeah.
The game
basically
just came
retail
out.
Value. Yeah, it's basically the retail value.
Well, on Amazon, it was $49. I had just added it to my wish list for Christmas for $49, just because I make a wish list on Amazon for Christmas. So I was like, okay, wife, you can look at that later, and that's just one of the games. If I get it for Christmas, I'll be happy. And I saw it in there for $40. I was like, well, that's a great deal. But that's the only game I bought. I think I did well.
That did pretty well. Yeah. There were a bunch of games I was like, and I need to circle back because I told a couple people like, well, if this game doesn't sell, maybe circle back to me and I'll see if I'll buy it. You know, so I have to reach out to a few folks. But yeah, I need to. I have Trekking 2 and 1 and 2. And I think I just need to sell one because all the reviews are that 2 is better, and that has a good solo version, which I listened to the Right Brain Rollers podcast, which is Eric Summer and some other guy, I forget his name now. But he talked about how the solo version in Trekking the World Part 2 is really pretty good. So I might check that out this weekend.
I think that's what really put it on my wish list was that solo aspect. And then the idea that they took the rule book down from 2,500, almost 3,000 words down to like 1,500, 1,000 words. They cut out a whole bunch of rules in the rule book and put it mostly on the cards. So it like simplified the game in a sense.
The no blocking, I think, is big. I think the biggest issue with Trekking the World 1 is that blocking aspect.
Because of this guy. This guy right here to my left.
If it's part of the game, take advantage of it.
That's right.
It's there for a reason.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other games that I was telling y'all about that I was on my stack to sell, because I had come up with a list. So I went through part of the exercise. I made a list of things. I set them aside. Here's things I would sell if I take them to the flea market. Hadrian's Wall. It was on that list. I spent time on the BGA app. I didn't realize that BGA had Hadrian's Wall on there in a solo mode.
Yep.
And then also a tutorial. I've never done a tutorial on Board Game Arena before.
Those tutorials can be really good.
The answer is yes. Yes, it can be, Wayne.
Did you do it?
Holy moly. It was, I would say maybe an hour I spent on there.
Okay.
Kind of going through the tutorial of how to play. And it really explained every section, every icon, right, all the tables in a way that was just understandable to the point where I even did some gladiatorial stuff, Robert. I know that you and Mike talked about
rare section that nobody touches.
That you also, and I can see now why.
Yeah.
I spent energy and time raising a gladiator to watch him die on his first combat.
Nice.
Hadrian's Wall is now off the list. It's going back on the shelf to stay
you
on my
liked it.
shelf forever.
Oh,
It is
sweet.
never going to the for sale.
It's a good game,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah, it's good.
And going back on his shelf to never be played ever.
Never again. He made that memory.
But it was good enough to own.
He made that memory, and it'll stay there on his shelf.
Well, now that you know how to play, we definitely got to play.
Yeah,
So,
and it was much simpler than I thought. It
Yeah.
really was a lot. It's just
So much iconography, though. Oh
all
my
the
God.
different areas. Yeah, you got to
Too
learn
much.
each of the
It's
areas.
too
But
much, man.
I think that the piece that's the too much piece is the prerequisites. So like understanding the prerequisites for each area, I think
Yeah.
was the hardest part.
Yeah.
Like I know I got to have this colored banner at this level before I can build here. But on BGA, it takes care of all that.
Right. Yeah. You won't let you click on something you can't click on. Yeah.
So,
It's the chat.
actually, I think Chester may listen to the same podcast, Right Brain Rollers. It's the Eric Summers podcast, and they talked about like, how do you deal with people who play a game not the way it was intended to?
Oh, Dan.
Yeah.
How you doing,
So-
Dan?
And one of the examples was like you're playing Ticket to Ride, and somebody just hoards cards. Like they do nothing but like the first 30 turns, they just collect cards
That's the only
That's
way to
me.
play.
because there's no hand limit, so you can have as many cards as you want.
Mhm.
And then do you just, as people are building routes, you go, oh, that's the route you're doing, I'm gonna block you.
I do that.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna block you. I'm gonna block you. Right. And like so like it kind of goes back to the whole magic circle thing. Is like, well, typically Ticket to Ride is played this way. And if you're this guy, Dan,
Viticulture.
Chester,
Yeah.
Viticulture, right?
Hey, I win games like that though.
You do,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think the like for me, the answer is when I play a game with Dan, I look for that, right? I
Yeah.
look for
What is Dan going
is
to do to screw
what
me
is
in this
the
game?
left field. I am gonna just like turn the game on its head. It's within the rules, but I'm gonna do it thing. But the majority of players don't do that, right? And I think that's what I think that like it was an interesting conversation. It's like, well, what do you do? Like, do you not play a game with that person? Or before you play a game with that person, do you try to set a magic circle of rules of let's not do that like left field play? Or do you embrace it and say, okay, I know that when I'm playing a game with Dan, he's going to come from left field, like with the steel chair and jump and, crush you in the head. So you need to like think about that. Right. And I like both of those things. I like the idea when you play Ticket to Ride, you play it the way it's typically played, or I'll play a game with Dan and I know I need to be as eccentric and crazy because why not? Let's just do it. Right. And that's, so that was, it was an interesting conversation about that. Like, what happens when a game is typically played a certain way, but within the rules, you can play it totally different. And what do you do with that player? Or how do you handle it as a group?
There's Jim's answer.
Yeah.
He blocks people on VGA for doing that.
No, he says he blocks a lot of people.
He's probably blocked me on there.
Jim making friends. Yeah.
I mean, I got a good story about that. There's a couple, probably like 3 or 4 dice towers ago, and I didn't know Mitchell then, but we ended up at a table playing what Rob just said, viticulture.
Viticulture.
And I had heard from somebody like a couple weeks before Dice Tower started that, hey, you know that you can win viticulture without ever planting anything.
Right. Yeah.
And when I sat down at the game to play, I was like, oh, let me give that a try. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And I remember looking over, and you could see him getting madder and madder.
And I think we played 6 players too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 6 players.
It was a nice long game.
And I think it was about the point when I got to like 13 or 14 points and I was ahead of everybody.
You were winning. Yeah.
He turned and looked at me and said, "Do you have a problem with playing the game like it's supposed to be played?"
Yes.
Yes, that's what I said. I think I said, yeah, I do. I just that's how I have fun.
and I think it's like the evolution of gaming is 3 or 4 years ago. I would have been in that same group of why are you playing this game wrong? The game is about making wine. And then Jamie himself said, no, you could totally not play this game to make wine because there are wineries and places that don't produce wine. They just make grapes and sell the grapes and they do other stuff and they're in the wine industry, but they don't actually make their own wine. They do all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, the person who drinks probably more than I should has been, my honeymoon was in Napa Valley. I go, that makes sense, actually. So it's like there are, if it's within the rules, it's within the rules, and it is what it is, right? And so I've kind of learned that in the last few years of like, I coined the phrase the Dan method, right? It's like it is what it is.
Chaos.
Right? It's chaos.
When we see that happen, we all yell chaos.
But you know it's okay because it's like it's within the rules. And the guy who created the game said, no, that's a perfectly viable strategy. It's okay to play that way. And so it kind of, for the longest time, like you're playing a game called Viticulture, which is all about winemaking, and you don't make wine. Whatever. And then the guy who created the game goes, no, that's okay because there are plenty of wineries who don't actually make their own wine. They just produce the grapes and they sell their grapes to other wineries and they buy stuff and they make, so it's a perfectly viable strategy. When he said that, I'm like, well, how many other games does that fit? Right. So that like at left field strategy, if it works, it works. Right. So if Ticket to Ride has no hand limit, that's the rule of the game. So you could draw as many cards as you want and then just start blocking people. Right. And it may work, it may not work, but it's a viable strategy.
But you also have to play off the people you're playing with. Once you recognize that person is heading that way, that's when you start got to changing your tells and your play style. Like I'm going to start drawing too. I'm going to collect my sets and I'm going to try to get them all out there before you get a chance. And then before I even play a route, I'm going to make sure I have 2 viable ways to get there.
To get that route.
So if I know that red and a yellow will get me there, I'm going to get some red and yellow just in case Dan takes one or the other.
Tries to block you, yeah. Or like, if I know someone is collecting cards and Ticket to Ride to like hoard cards, I'm going to try to rush the end of the game. I'm going to try to just play a bunch of 1 trains and 2 trains and get them out to kind of zerg the end of the game because their end game is I have a ton of cards so I can just play train. But if I end the game before they can do that, then, that's strat. Yeah, you're right. You have to pivot.
Which is what I have to do now. If I'm in a game of viticulture with Rob, he knows that I'm going to do that, and he knows where to go to block me from doing that. So that makes me play the game the correct way whenever I'm playing with him because I can't do it because he knows. Yeah.
Stops Dan from getting the visitors.
Don't get all
Stop Dan from giving the tours.
Don't get all those cards. Yeah, we're just making the points off of those cards. Yeah. It's not an exact parallel, but just reminds me of something that they talked about on board game Smorgasbord this morning. I'm looking around here desperately trying to find the game. What's the one where you're collecting the gems, you're trying to attract the nobles? They got Splendor. They got the Pokemon version. So I believe in the rules of Splendor, it talks about the theme of Splendor. So you're getting these gems to try to attract the nobles. It came up on board game Smorgasbord. I didn't watch the World Series, and that was one of the 10 premier games they had at the World Series of board gaming this last year. But they talked about at the top table, none of the players had a strategy to get the nobles.
Yeah,
if you get a noble. Yeah, if you get a noble, then and you happen to just do the right combination to luck into it, hey, bonus. But that's not the way you play the game competitively. Yeah. You don't try to go after the nobles, even though that's the theme of the game. Is let's attract the nobles, let's get the gems, attract the nobles.
I generally Splendor is a good example of one where I realized over time I played kind of a Dan method. Right, is I never cared about the nobles, and I never bought a level 1 card in Splendor.
Yeah.
I only ever went level 2, level 3. And for a long time, I was winning a lot of games of Splendor with just that method of ignoring the nobles, ignoring level 1 cards. The only level 1 cards I would buy would be level 1 cards that gave you a point. So it was literally just point hunting. I would collect gems to buy cards that for points, and that's it. And it was a fairly successful strategy. I've won a good amount of games playing Splendor that way. So and again, not how the game is supposed to be played.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Pablo42 says, it's like people just staying at the mines getting gold the entire game in Western Legends.
Yeah.
Essentially mining legends.
Yeah. Yeah.
But somebody's got to go rob them.
Call coming in.
Beans and Dice Podcast. State your name. Where are you calling from?
This is Kenneth in Temple Terrace.
My man, Kenneth.
Hey, Kenneth, how are you?
Mr. Fly.
I'm doing all right. How are y'all doing this evening?
We are well. We're talking board games.
Doing good.
Glad to hear from you. It's been a while.
It's a long time no talk, yeah.
Talk to us about what you've been up to gaming-wise.
Well, gaming time has been a little limiting, but I've been doing a little bit of tabletop gaming. So I've been enjoying BattleTech, Shatterpoint, and I just picked myself up Mantic's Halo Flashpoint.
Oh, just stop it.
Boy.
No, I don't want to.
Don't even
I'm trying to stay away. That's actually one of the topics on my I have a sheet of news articles that I want to go through, and one of them is talking about that Mantic game. It's got a connection to Rob and I from years ago.
Oh, okay.
Man, that seems like a good one.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, you're one of the biggest things right now is managing my collection, the organization of just my collection and getting things done because I've got a limited amount of space. So your topic and what's going on definitely caught my eye. So I was able to catch y'all tonight.
Nice.
Yeah, and usually I go over and play games with my family on Sunday evenings. So there's a lot of time conflicts. That's why I haven't been out to see y'all.
Sure.
But we've been enjoying more family style games. Ticket to Ride is one of the great ones.
Oh yeah.
And yes, I picked up all of the deluxe train sets.
Oh,
that they just released.
Yeah,
Wayne and I did
got
that.
all those. Carlos get them all too.
Yeah, we got them all.
Okay, collect them all. Got to get them all.
They're nice,
including the milk train set too.
Yeah, I got that one. That was nice.
Gentlemen, what is that for? What is that milk?
Just to use it. It's like the pink ones. It's like the pink ones they released a couple of years ago, right?
Which I got those too. Yep.
Yeah, those two. Yep.
Same thing. It's just so you can have some cool looking train cards.
Okay,
that's all it is.
Yep.
It adds a little more flavor, a little bit of deluxification to your game. And I got to admit, deluxification really does something for me. And right now I'm organizing my 590 game plus expansions set. Some of them I'm putting away to play for later. And roughly I've got 170 games. And I figure maybe a quarter of them get tabled, and the other ones I just don't want to buy again or get rid of them without at least trying them. So it's one of those. So I'm kind of, I've already done one cull that I knew for the space coming in, but I'm not buying new games. I may buy an expansion for an existing game I've got, but yeah, nothing new except for Deliverance. I love playing that game on solo. And hopefully I'll be able to get it out and play that with a group of people soon.
I'm looking forward to getting that one tabled. I just got 3 weeks ago from Dan. I got the miniatures, I got the mat, and I got the cold coins. That is definitely one I want to get tabled.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the Kickstarter for the expansion, the standalone new game that's coming out for it that continues the story. But that's a year out. So that's a good fun thing.
Nice.
And I was kind of wondering about what's the difference, and you guys covered a topic I was also interested in. What is the difference between Trekking the World version 1 and version 2? And I'm like y'all. I'm going. If I already got a game that kind of does that, why do I need to get another one? So right now my collection is really kind of on hold, except for expanding some of my tabletop games, my tabletop war games. And other than that, I'm just kind of sitting and waiting, because I don't see it's now becoming a question of how much value can I get out of what I'm spending. I feel kind of cheated if I don't get $1 per player hour, out of a game. So BG Stats has been a great thing for me for doing that, because I figure out, because if you've got people being entertained for 25 cents an hour, that's an incredible investment.
Yeah, good value.
Yep.
Yes.
Especially compared to other forms of entertainment, movies or going out.
Yeah.
But I think that there's like a double-edged sword there. Is like if I bought a game for $40, it's on my shelf of shame, or I played it once and it was okay, but I hold on to it thinking, well, it only cost me $40, and if I play this game 2 or 3 more times, the cost per play and for the entertainment value is amazing. But then again, the game is a game. Every time I look at my shelf, I go, I don't want to play that one. So then it does like the thought of holding on to it for its value in replayability or playing it a few times. You also then need to think about, okay, it's on my shelf, and what's the value of it on my shelf? And if it's on my shelf for a year or 2 years or 3 years, how much opportunity, like that space could have been filled with a game that's going to get played more frequently, maybe. But yeah, but I do that all the time where I think about like, oh, I'll play this game. I like Castle Burgundy. I played hundreds of times and I spent, X amount of money on it. So the value of that is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, we get trapped in, a lot of us do that. We get trapped into that sunk cost fallacy of like, oh, I spent $40 on it, so I got to get my $40 out of it, instead of just letting it go and getting something that's going to fill your time better.
Well, and that's where I'm kind of sitting at, is the games that I do play, I play often. And the other ones are like, I got to get those tabled and just play them. Or I just got to spend the time and get the time to get rid of them.
But what you said there, a moment ago really ties into that. A moment ago, you talked about the energy it would take to get rid of them and buy them again. Like, these are games I have that I don't want to take the time to have to buy them again, right? So there's the cost of the time spent getting rid of it, right, in whatever method you choose to. And then there's the time that you'll spend in the future, the perceived cost of finding it again when you're ready to play it and buying it again. To me, that cost well exceeds what Wayne said, the cost of it sitting on my shelf, right? I've got this thing, and it's like an ADD thing, where if I don't see something or someone, I don't think about them. Like, they just don't exist. Like, if it's not in my face, if it's not something I'm dealing with, you know, and maybe it has to do with growing up with a dad who was absent, right? Like, if you're not in my life at the moment, it's not that I don't love you. It's not that I'm not reaching out to you to say hi. It's just you know, in my brain, you're just not there. But then when you pop back in, it's like we were never apart. Does that make sense? Anyway, so like these games that are sitting on my shelves, I'm not thinking about them. I don't even know what games are on my shelf. So they have, to me, no real cost for being on my shelf. But the idea of figuring out how to get rid of it, how to package it, how to sell it, and then the idea of, okay, one day I will want to buy it again, that energy drain exceeds the cost of leaving it on my shelf.
That sounds more like a self conversation you have with yourself to make you feel better about it in the long run.
I don't see you right now, Dan.
Plus, the under your couch must be filthy.
Don't see it. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. That's right.
Yeah.
That's what I got the kids for, keeping that.
Keep it under the couch clean.
Do your kids really clean under the couch, Carlos? Come on.
Oh, my wifey makes them all. Hey, step 1 on how to mow a yard. Have a kid. Step 2, make them do it.
Interesting. Yeah.
No, that's good stuff.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what's going on. I'm hoping to get out to one of the events one of these days.
Good. Yeah,
I'll have to get some more detail on the Beans and Dice game day coming up in December, and hopefully maybe I can make it out to that.
Yeah, we're getting back to our second Saturdays. We've been a while there, more than a year without a second Saturday game day. But
There's been a lot that's going on this year, Robert.
Yeah.
From like October to October.
Yeah.
Between your health and my family growth, there's been a lot. This year's flown by. Hey, Kenneth, before you go, I want to talk a little bit about that Mantic game because it was one of the topics I wanted to bring up on the show eventually. Have you had an opportunity to play it yet?
I have played I got to play one demo game of it. I have it, and I was going to see if somebody wanted to play it maybe Friday night up at Armada Games. I'm not. I'm just kind of looking to hang out and maybe go play, blow off a little bit of steam.
For the folks at home, Mantic is a miniatures game company out of England, and they kind of taken a place of being like the counterfeit Games Workshop. So like they made rank and file fantasy war games after Games Workshop stopped doing their fantasy war game line. You know, they had like a space style game, almost like 40K. And Robert, that's where you come in. Oh, yeah? You had an opportunity to play the base of this game. This is the Halo game that just came out. Okay. Fallout, is that what it's called? Flashpoint. I know it's an F. Mantic's Halo Flashpoint. So, Robert, there was a game I introduced you to where, because it was a cross between a war game and a board game. Instead of using measuring tapes, right? I don't know if you remember this. It used cubic zones.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yes, PTSD is quick on that one.
Exactly.
So check it out. There's a board, right, Dan? And it's maybe 36 inches or 30 inches by 30 inches, and everything's in 3-inch cubes. So think of volume. Everything's in volume. So you're not measuring with measuring tapes. You're measuring by volume. Your weapon can shoot X number of cubic volumes in a direction. And because the game is elevated, it had these towers, Rob, remember them? Big plastic towers and walkways. Everything was in perfect cubes like Legos. You build the terrain with these cubes, and you can make walkways and buildings and towers. And you would just, you would shoot and measure based on how many spaces you would count. It would take either going up, down, left, right, at an angle. And that's how it counted for height, elevation, and cover. I thought it was a great system from Mantic, but they just came out with it again. They redid the system, and now it's Halo.
Halo universe.
Yep, so you can play like red versus blue Halo. So like both of you being Spartans.
Sure.
But they also have the Covenant.
Okay.
Right? The Flood, I think, is even coming out as an expansion, if I'm right. So it's all Halo based now. And Dan, you did a flea market at your turn. I think it was during the con. Was it that little church or that building we did? I finally sold my Mantic game, the whole set. Got rid of it. I think it was like $20. Got rid of all of it. It was a sad day because I loved it with all its terrain. But then they came out with this edition, and I'm like, oh.
Back in.
Yeah, I might be. That, or I'll just use Kenneth's copy. I'll just play his once and call it done.
Let somebody else buy it. Yeah.
It's actually really fun. It's based off of their, it's a slightly modified rule set based off of Mantic's Dead Zone. And it seems like a lot of fun. The rule set seems real simple to pick up, and it had a good time playing.
And if I remember correctly, it was all D10s. And it was dice pools.
D8s.
D8s. Dice pools. So the more dice you throw, the more odds you have of hitting. Cover was line of sight. So you would like look from your model to the other model. And if there's anything in between, that's the part Robert didn't like, was deciding if cover applied.
Yeah.
But it did kind of meet us in the middle with the measuring piece.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've got some family calling. I got to
All right, brother.
drop.
Good chatting with you.
You have a good one.
That was Kenneth out of Florida talking about Mantic's new Flashpoint Halo game. Got me all excited.
I can tell.
Can you tell?
Yeah. Had to move away from you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, thank you, Kenneth, for that call.
Yeah.
813-618-7099 is the number.
Good to hear from you.
We are back.
Yeah. We got about 20 minutes in the show here. What do we need to hit still?
Anybody have any recently tabled games that they want to talk about? Recently tabled.
I got to pull up my list here.
Nothing yet, Wayne?
This weekend, probably. I'll get some games played, but things are moving in a very good direction. So in the next couple of weeks, I'll get back to normal life. But
That's good.
Was it last week that Mike was here?
Yeah, last Thursday, yep.
Last Thursday after the show, Rob, myself, and Mike sat down and played some Nakosu dice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Learned that one, yep.
And then we played some Flip 7 and some vegetable stock. Holy moly, Flip 7. Played it with the family afterwards,
That
too.
was good, yeah.
This right here is good. Flip 7 is a press your luck, and it says right here in the box, the greatest card game of all time.
That is. Yeah, it's got to be.
Imagine, so it's blackjack, except for instead of busting at 21, you bust if you ever get two of the same numbered card in front of you.
there's like 2 2s, 3 3s, 4 4s. It's like that increasing.
Affirmative.
Yep.
All the way up to 12 12s. There's 1 0, 1 1, and then all the way up to 12 12s. Then I have some special action cards in here that let you do things like freeze somebody out, where you freeze them. They have to pass.
Yeah.
They have to pass and bank their points. They can't hit anymore and grow points. We played a round of this. This flew by.
Oh, yeah.
Played it with the family.
Yeah.
The teach was so simple. This right here is like this is Thanksgiving right here.
Great filler, yeah.
I reached out to Michael at Armada Games and told him, hey, you got to get this in stock. Let me know when you get some, because this is something that I would buy for folks for Christmas.
Yeah, I would pick up a copy of it for sure. It's fun. I like my cards. I like blackjack. I like poker games. I like press your luck. I mean, it's got all that in there. Yep. Really, really a good game. And I know it's super popular right now. It's people
it's hitting all the various podcasts and stuff.
It's hitting.
Yeah,
It's a banger, right? Yeah.
That's what the kids are saying now. It's a banger.
It's a banger. Yeah, I don't know. That's what somebody said. So,
You should stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stop.
It has
I got a
Riz.
12-year-old. It's
Riz.
Skibbity, right? That's
Skibbity.
something. I don't even know what that is. but-
Skibbity's a bad thing, actually.
Is it really?
Stop.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Skibbity's bad.
All right. I didn't even know. We had a game day at a little mini game day. Just a couple of us got together at Dan's house last Saturday. I'm looking at my list here, and we got a couple of games in, which was a good time. Unfortunately, we were going to do it was me, Dan, and Mike. We're getting together to play some games with Mo coming along afterwards. On the way to Dan's house, Mike was driving over from the East Coast of Florida, so he had a couple-hour drive. He started getting emails in his email. A couple trickled in at first, and then he had 100, and then he had 150, and then he had 300, then he had 400, then he had 500. Well, he found out his identity had been stolen, and somebody was applying to all of these magazines and all this kind of crap. So he spent the first couple hours at Dan's house on the phone, closing out all his accounts, calling all his credit card companies. So put a real damper. So Dan and I just decided to play some two-player games. So we pulled some games out. So just real quick, we played a couple of rounds of Fox in the Forest. It'd been a little while since I played that with Carlos. So it came back to me pretty quick.
Standard, not duet.
Just regular Fox in the Forest, standard Fox Forest, head-to-head, heads-up Fox in the Forest. I think Dan won one and Dan won one. So yes, Dan swept the old Fox in the Forest. So I learned Three Sisters. That's a game I've wanted to learn for a while. I'm glad I played Three Sisters, although I don't know that I loved Three Sisters. I liked it. It is, if you like combos, you will like Three Sisters, but it was almost so many combos that hurt my head. It's a little ridiculous in the way you can do one thing, and then now you've got 15 things, and then you spend about half of those, and now you got 15 more things, and it's like, holy mackerel, this game, just the combos and trying to keep track of, I've got this resource, and I'm going to spend it over there, and that's going to give me 2 of those, and then I got to spend one of those, and did I spend the second one? Oh no, hold on, I didn't write this down and cross it off, so now I got to go back and start over.
How do you
again.
keep track of the order of operation?
It's a lot of combos. So I kept hearing that about this game, that it's if you love combos, you're gonna love Three Sisters. I like combos, but maybe I don't love combos enough. It was it's a lot going on, and I don't know. I haven't heard that opinion from a lot of people, so it kind of blew me away when I got in there, and I was kind of overwhelmed with the combos, and I was like, wow, this is a different experience than what I thought it was going to be.
So what happens when an action gives you multiple actions, but then one of those multiple actions gives you another multiple actions? Which ones do you have to finish first before moving to the next?
I don't believe there was really any order, right? I mean, you could.
There's no real order.
Yeah.
No, you just got to remember it all.
That
Just
was
keep
the hard
checking
part.
boxes.
Yeah, and there's a little scratch pad area, and then Mike, about halfway through, I made the comment. I was like, "Holy crap! How do you keep track of all this?" And Mike was like, "Oh, there's this little scratch pad over here. If you want to start making lines and crossing stuff out." And I was like, "Hold on, that's a little too much for a roll and write. I'm not making. Imperial Settlers. It reminded me of the Imperial Settlers roll and write, where if you didn't have Imperial Settlers with all the resources that you could pull and keep track of, they gave you a little scratch pad area where you could mark stuff off, and that's just too much work. I mean, that at that point, it's gone over the edge for me. So anyway, I liked Three Sisters, and maybe I need to play it again. Maybe it'll be a little more natural if we play it again. We actually kind of did play it twice because Mike forgot a very basic rule of the game, and so about halfway through we were like, "Oh, hold on, we're doing this wrong." So we started over again. But it was a hold on, I'm looking over there. 3 out of 10. No. All right. Anyway, I was reading the chat. Sorry. I got distracted by the chat. But we played just a couple more games. So just real quick, we played Space Park. We did get a game of Space Park in. I think Carlos or somebody keeps telling me I've played Space Park before.
You did. Escape Winner.
Did I really?
Yeah.
I still don't, even though I played it again, that seemed like it was the first time I'd ever played it.
It's the same day we played Bloody Inn.
Okay. I never played Bloody Inn. So you must have
been another white guy with glasses.
You must have been playing with somebody else that
Dan,
day.
were you there?
we gotta get Rob some like.
I was there. I was the one. I taught it to you and Carlos both.
See, I'm not crazy. I swear.
No,
he was
you're
there.
No.
I played Bloody Inn.
Rob
No,
has the
I
memory
don't
of
remember
like
playing.
a mouse or something.
I don't remember ever playing Bloody Inn. I know that the three, you and Mike and Carlos played it once. I came over and watched the three of you play it. I remember
that same day we played Space Park.
Okay. Maybe the three of you played. I don't know.
Memorable.
Yeah, okay. Memorable. Very memorable. But anyway, okay. Azul, we played a game of Azul. We were trying to fit one more game in before Muhammad got there, so we got Azul in. And then Muhammad got there right before I had to leave to go to a hockey game because I had some tickets to the Tampa Bay game that night. But we did get a game, most of a game. I kind of rushed the end of it because I needed to get out of there. Maglev Metro, which is another great game. That was a good time. But me, Muhammad, Dan, and Mike got in one game of Maglev before I had to jet out of there. But that was
it as bad as the game we played at Dice Tower?
It was not. It was much better. And Muhammad, we taught him the game he had never played before, and he pretty handily beat all three of us who had played before in his first play. So that was pretty impressive.
That engineer brain
I
kicked
guess
in.
so. Yeah, something happened, and so. But those were our games. That's my recent plays. Was just I got the chance to play over at Dan's house, and we blasted through that handful of games. So it was good times. Yeah.
Hey Dan, any games played?
Yeah, the ones that he just said.
Yeah, exactly. Check. Next.
Not a game played, but I don't know if you all saw that they announced that Cascadia Junior.
Oh yeah,
It's going on the list.
with artwork from Elizabeth Hargrave. Yeah, from what I understand.
Yep.
Sobel?
Best
That's
Sobel.
Oh, Best Sobel. Was that
Best
Sobel?
Yeah.
Not Hargrave. Okay.
Yeah.
I,
Hargrave's
those
the
two are linked
designer.
in my mind there. Okay.
Oh, and,
But-
and on Tuesday, me and Rob got brutalized by Arkham
Uh,
Horror twice.
I was going to mention that in a minute. Yep.
Yeah.
We did. So, well, go ahead and tell the story, Dan.
Oh no, go ahead. You're good.
Oh no, okay. I was just going to say that so Dan and I had announced, and I think we've said it on the show, that we were going to record our playthrough of this series, and so we had played this a couple of years ago. We had started this series and gotten about 3/4 of the way through it before we, for various reasons, stopped. I think that was about the time of my eye and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so we stopped, and we hadn't been playing Arkham until recently. But Dan had a great idea. It's like, let's record this, let's put it on the channels. We'll do a little voiceover of it. We'll make mistakes and whatever. We're not professional Arkham players, but we'll just do it for fun. It'll be some content for the channel. So we set up the other night for Tuesday night, and so Dan's recording. He's got two cameras, one on the board where you're moving around and doing the actions, another on us with our hands in our player areas, and so going back and forth, turning cameras on and off and on and off. If those aren't for those who aren't familiar, Arkham Horror, the scenarios take probably about 2.5 hours. If you play through it and you beat it, you're looking at about 2.5 hours per scenario. We lost pretty handily in the first hour, and so we looked at each other and we were like, well, it's early in the night. We're not gonna put up a video of us getting destroyed in a game of Arkham Horror, because you can fail forward in Arkham Horror. Anytime you lose a scenario, they move you along to the next one. You may have some penalties and some stuff that carries over. But we're like, no, we're not having that. Not in the very first scenario. We're gonna beat the first scenario, and then we'll see what happens after that. So we looked at each other. It was like, it's early enough in the night. It's only an hour in. We were planning a couple of hours. Let's reset it real quick and do it again.
But when you say reset, do you mean the game or the video footage or both?
Both. Dan got on the cameras, deleted both.
Deleted all the video
everything.
that you took.
That never happened.
Yeah.
It never happened. So nobody knows it. So it never
Just
happened.
like Diddy.
Never
Deleted
happened.
all the video. It never happened.
Nobody saw it. It didn't happen. So we reset it. Well, it took us 10 minutes. I mean, just resetting those decks real quick. We were like, all right, we're not going to do the intro again. We'll voice all that over later. So let's just hit play and do it again. So we hit play, starting going along. Things are going okay. That time we might have made it an hour and 10 minutes in, and then nosedive again. Epic fail. So it was a bad night. So 2.5 hours worth of gameplay, which we had expected to have a win by then. We had 2 epic fails, and so Dan deleted the footage again. Didn't happen. That night never existed. So we're going to try again next week. We're going to get together, and we are going to record a winning playthrough of the opening intro scenario of Arkham Horror. And you'll have to remind me again, in my short memory. What's the series we're playing here? What's the
we're playing the cycle, the Forgotten Age.
Forgotten Age? That's the one. So we're going to try to beat Forgotten Age. We got a call coming in.
Beans and Dice Podcast. State your name. Where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hello. That's the Beans and Dice Podcast. State your name.
Hi,
Where are you
this
calling
is
from?
Chuck, how are you?
Chuck? Hello, Chuck.
Hi, this is Chuck. How are you guys?
We are well. What state are you out of, Chuck? Where are you located?
I'm in the state of Alabama. Where are you guys located at?
We are in Florida.
I'm in the state of Alabama.
Welcome to the show, Chuck. We're talking board games. What do you want to talk about?
Oh, I'm near Florida. I'm in Alabama.
Yep, well, you're right next to the most southern part of Florida.
To see, board games.
Yeah, talk to us about board games.
Yeah. Oh, Louisiana. Then there's Atlanta, Mississippi.
We're ready when you are. Talk to us about board games.
So what board games are you guys talking about tonight?
All of them.
Oh, I'm ready, man. You guys good?
Yes, sir. Make sure you're listening on your phone and not on the YouTube.
Yeah,
Don't listen on the YouTube. Listen on the phone.
You're on a delay. Yep.
Yep.
Sorry.
That's all right. Talk to us about games that you're up to.
Sorry. I want to talk about the game Sorry.
Oh.
There you go.
Chuck got me. Chuck got me.
Zam.
Am I in trouble? Speaking of trouble, what are your thoughts on that thing?
He's got the jokes.
They are great games to start with the kids. I have trouble. I have Star Wars Mandalorian
So are you
trouble.
guys all in one location?
Negative. We are everywhere. Chuck rules.
Says Dan.
You guys are too kind, man. Dan is the best.
Well, thank you.
Dan agrees.
Much appreciated. Appreciate your call, Chuck.
Where's Dan? Where are you from, Dan?
What?
This is comedy.
Hello?
It's the comedy hour.
Hey.
Delay.
I missed it.
Dan's on delay.
I think that was Dan's
One
on
more
delay.
time?
What?
Sorry, what?
What?
Somebody's in trouble.
So how you guys doing tonight? Sorry.
We are well, Chuck. We really appreciate the call. I think this is the first time we got a call from Alabama, so we could check that one off the box,
Off the list.
off the
Yeah.
list. Much appreciated. We thank you for the call, man. Have a good night, Chuck.
And be sure to check out the Shuli Network.
Dan went away. Oh, Dan's back. Hey, Dan.
Hey!
Hey. Talk to Chuck, Dan.
Dan's deep, man.
Help us.
That was deep, Dan.
Blink twice, Dan, if you need help.
That was deep state joke. Hey, real quick though, shout out in the chat.
Is that a first ever?
First time ever.
Wow.
Well, it's in here. Let me see.
Oh, where to go? Where to go? It's got to be down at the bottom.
There
it is.
First time ever.
Oh.
Dixon Cinder
Cider.
said $2 in the YouTube chat.
Woo-hoo.
First time
That's
ever
first time ever.
super chat.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
We made it, Rob. We are real YouTube live streamers.
Thanks, Mom.
And as soon as that happened, right behind that, Guillermo Handyman to the Stars
$2.
hits a $2 chat.
Did it again.
I feel like there's a group of people like all of a sudden you have Christy and Yuri. Like we went from like X viewers to like 10 more viewers.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I feel like we're
And
getting
$4
like,
more dollars,
something
bro.
happened.
we're getting bombed by a group of jokesters here, which is fun.
Oh, they can keep calling. Come on, call in.
Yeah, we'll do it for $2 a
Love it.
shot.
Yeah, keep going.
$2. $2.
I'll stare at you.
We'll mess with you for 5 minutes for $2. Yeah.
Let's see here. Guillermo says Dan looks like the dad from Family Ties.
There's a blast from the past.
Hold on.
Michael J. Fox was what, 18 in that show?
Yeah.
Hell, maybe. Well, wow, Family Ties. Woo.
In Twitch speak, it's you guys are having a hype train. We got a hype train coming.
That's so somebody dropped some people in on us, probably from another thing.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate that. Yeah, whoever dropped those in there, I guess let us know where you came from if somebody sent you our way. We appreciate that. Yeah,
I got to give props to Dan's level of troll on that call.
Yeah,
that delayed response. I was like, did we lose Dan? What happened?
We're gonna keep you around, Dan. We're gonna keep you around. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty spot on.
That is pretty close from Family Ties. What's the actor's name?
Can you bring a bigger picture up?
Trying. There we go.
There's without the beard though. That doesn't quite do it justice.
Yeah, we need to get the beard in there.
I'm more like David Letterman than I am that guy.
Yeah,
well, right now you're more David Letterman. But if
that's what I'm saying now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like.
That looks
Nick
more like
Oben.
Nick.
Nick Oben and Dad had a love child.
Wow. And there goes our viewership. Just went down to
bye, everybody.
Anyway, people thought they were coming here for board games, and look what they got. Yeah.
When you sidetrack a bunch of idiots, that's what happens.
We got Farhan Wasim says, from Canada here, usually browse board game content, and your live has been showing up on my homepage for a few weeks now. Wow, YouTube's sending us to people's homepages. Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Thanks, YouTube.
We do silly things like take random phone calls from other board gamers and just talk to people.
Crazy idea.
From all over the world.
Yeah. Usually we talk about board games, but sometimes we get off topic a bit.
Yeah. It's late. It's after 10, so
it's almost 11 o'clock Eastern here. Yeah. Fun times.
And I never know when to hang up. Like I'm always.
No, you let them go a lot longer than I would.
We have. Yeah. Oh my God. Like I would
dump to that like halfway.
No, that was comedy gold. No, keep that.
Gotta let that play out.
Yeah.
I'm not even making fun of the person. That was great.
No,
I enjoyed
great.
that.
It was great. I think, and to Carlos's credit, like Rob and I would dump after like 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
But 90% of the time when we let it go, it's just a good experience, right?
It's good stuff, yeah.
Because like if the person right away is dropping like nasty comments and like racial things, all right, dump, goodbye. But if you're playing the bit, then
it's good fun.
It's good fun. Let's go for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what else are we gonna do? Anybody else calling?
Yeah,
just message to all y'all out there.
Yeah, call where that happens.
Yeah, at least Chuck called in.
Exactly. Yeah.
From Alabama.
From Alabama, Chuck from Alabama.
Also known as the most southern part of Florida, right up there. South Alabama, that's North Florida.
North Florida, yeah. Florida man, Alabama man.
Now let's see here. Farhan says, if you guys don't have a specific topic you want to talk about, do you want to rate my collection? See, that is, we've been having fun with that as of late.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dan's like, the answer is yes.
Dan's already all over.
How do we get? Do we need pictures? Can you email us a list? We will do that.
EGG username, right? We can look up the collection.
Yeah, if you have it on there, yeah.
And they said we're coming to the end of the show, so we might have to. If you can send it to us, we can hit it next week for sure.
Well, you will be the topic next week. Yes.
Yeah, we can definitely
join the Discord. Or you can email beansanddice@gmail.com if you want to email maybe a picture of a shelf and you want us to rate your shelf. We've been tearing down people's top 10 list lately. So when people post, I would say a journalist, press, when they post their top 10 list, Dan's been finding them on the inner tubes and we've been talking about it and tearing them down. So if you're looking for us to roast your shelf, you can email us a picture of your game shelf,
or even if you want honest opinions. I mean, we'll do that too. Yeah,
I mean, we honestly roast them though.
Yeah,
that's really what we do.
All right.
You can email us at beansanddice@gmail.com, beansanddice@gmail.com. Send us your board game picture of your shelf and we'll roast it.
Wayne threw the Discord information in the chat there, so if anybody wants to jump in on the Discord, go on there. We'll get you signed up, and we have channels. We talk about all kinds of stuff on the Discord. So, and BGG, if you play games, or BGA, if you play games on Board Game Arena, we constantly have games posted up there for people to jump into from our group. So, yep,
we are the top channel on the internet for board game call-in show. Chester rates us a 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10. Great.
We're the
Great
best.
optics, looks good. Fun to
Fantastic
play.
show.
Nothing better.
2 out of 10.
Live,
10.
call in whenever you want. 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10. Love it.
And every week, Thursday nights, we take your phone calls to talk about what you've been up to gaming wise. We usually start the conversation up. Hopefully next week is Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's right, yeah.
don't count on it for next week, but hopefully if y'all can send us some shelves for us to look at, we'll be glad to roast your games when we get back.
Yeah, Farhan
Black
says
Friday,
he'll send them in.
Friday show or Wednesday night show? Instead of Thursday?
I'm off work all week, so I can do whenever. So, yeah.
I'm done. I don't work until early December.
Nice.
Very nice.
We get this going, we'll just have to have a separate show just for roasting things.
True.
Dan's all for that.
Marshmallows? Yeah.
Well, it's been another great week, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining in. Dan is the best.
Oh, he's the best.
He is the best.
He's the best.
Wayne coming out of Lutz. My man Rob here in house.
Rushing over here at the last minute. Woo.
I'm Carlos, and we're the Beans and Dice Podcast, a podcast about
How we game.
Thanks for watching the Beans and Dice podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Dan's out.